Today in this video, we're going to be breaking down a 16 Theater of Pain that my group was able to get done. Actually, last week, I believe it was kind of like a last minute hiya. We sent the rest of our 16s that we had. We bricked a few, we got a few done. And this Theater of Pain was one of the last ones we completed on Monday night. So in this run, I'm going to be talking about quickly my talent breakdown. Then we're going to break down the run, everything that went right, everything that went wrong, and just kind of nerd out about it. So really quick, let's talk about talent setup. So for this key, I was running this talent setup. Now, looking back at the footage, I definitely didn't need to run Oxdance in here. This is actually a safety precaution I wanted for both first boss as well as mini boss RNG and Zav's Wing. Outside of that, Oxdance did not get a ton of value. I don't recommend running this. If you're playing a Master of Harmony, you can definitely trade out for a stack of high tolerance with like Anvil and Stave, for example. You can put it into Quick Sip, or you could put it into Cheese Surge for CDR or extra damage. This was the setup I was running. All right, getting into the run, we are running Resto Shaman, Double Warrior, Double Arms Warrior, and Outlaw Rogue. So not the best comp, not the worst comp either. We like the physical comp and the elements that it brings. Obviously, when you stack a class, you lose out on a lot of CC potential. You obviously run into like things like diminishing returns for just like your CCs, but you do bring a consistent damage kit. And if you're playing, if the class is good enough, it's not that bad. So like double outlaws, probably kind of okay. Double arms feels okay in here. I would love to swap one of the warriors for like a feral druid, or in some cases a hunter. But anyways, let's talk about this run. So we're going to start off by using a shroud skip. Now we do have to be careful because the Bloodhorn does have spectral sight, so we don't want to hit it while it's too close to the other pack. It is going to come at us though. Then we're going to get a kick on Sathel, and we're going to stack them up nice and neatly here. A little bit into the poll, I'm getting things like Weapons of Order rolling. We're going into like Keg Smash, Rising Sun Kick, hopefully Keg Smash again soon. And this is to get the damage amp kind of rolling on them. And then the big scary overlap comes out right about here. So this is where you need to pay attention because you have damage coming out from the Bloodhorn. You have damage coming out from Desia, who's doing like the Mighty Smash. And then, of course, you have damage coming out from Pakran. Right after you move, you need to spread out when you're playing a full melee comp. These circles, they instant tick. So if you're stacked, if you have more than two people stacked at this level of key, it's pretty much a one-shot. I want to say that I can't remember if it happens in this run. I think at the end of the fight, two people clip each other, but I don't remember. No, never mind. That was a different run. The big focus here, ideally, is Sathel. You want to push Sathel down as fast as possible, but you also want to cleave them pretty evenly, because if one has a lot of health at the end of this fight, they're going to do a massive amount of increased damage, and they're going to spam their kind of like major ability a lot faster. Their energy gain goes up. So you just want to be a little careful of that. Sathel is priority, followed by Desia, who's the giant axe wheeler, followed by Pakran. Pakran's the guy who spawns the noxious spores on the ground. The way that I use cooldowns in this fight is I kind of bank on trinkets and weapons of order at the start, and then I follow it up with Dampen of Harm, generally on the first movement. And then after that, I kind of roll things as I need to. So I'm using Celestial Brew as they come up. I'm using Black Ox Brew as it comes up. And then Fortifying Brew just kind of to fill in. Fortifying Brew on this fight doesn't feel all that impactful. Obviously, when you're playing Iron Shell Brew, it's a 30% DR. It's not bad, but since we get so many tier set procs generally, that's really where you're going to get a lot of the meat of that Iron Shell from. You're not really getting it from the actual use of Fortifying Brew. Anyway, Sathel went down fairly early. Now it's just Desia and Pakran up. Now, for some reason, I think a lot of us were focusing, myself included, were focusing Pakran. So he ends up dying here second, which he should have been the third death. And then this third Mighty Smash, I think, ends up kind of clapping us. As you can see there, everyone went down to 5% health. That's why you focus Sathel and Desia first. Because in any higher of a key level, we would have lost all of our DPS there. Now, obviously, they could have used a defensive, but we weren't aware it was going to do that much damage. So heading into the first wing. Now, we are going to make sure we're killing this Arbalest first. They apply a thing called Jagged Coral. It's a very nasty bleed. You can dwarf this off, which is super nice. But if you can't dwarf it off, that player needs a lot of spot healing and should probably use the defensive. Once the Arbalest dies, we're going to get ready to chain it into the first mini-boss. This mini-boss is... So this one specifically is very easy for almost every tank. I believe every tank handles this one fine. The other mini-boss is something called Savage Flurry, which Brewmasters really struggle with. So one of the big reasons why we were able to time this key is because we got this mini-boss, Nekthara. The other one is just such a headache. The way you deal with the other one is you need all of your defensives up, and you really, really need to pray that you kill the mini-boss before like the 5th or 6th Savage Flurry. So you commit a big defensive to every single one. You obviously fill in Celestial Brew. If you're running defensive trinkets like I am, you're rotating defensive trinkets. You don't want to overcommit, but you also don't want to undercommit because you never know when you're going to die. And the reason why it's so difficult is because all the attacks are physical, so most tanks actually handle them quite well. Brewmasters have low armor, and while you can dodge it, dodge has diminishing returns when you're hitting a single target outside of your elusive brawler. And you can't stack elusive brawler fast enough for you to be able to dodge multiple of the hits. So you're taking a hit like every 0.5 or every 0.3 seconds for like an extended duration of time, and it just ends up killing Brewmasters. So now that we're sub 100 mil, what we're going to start doing is pulling Nekthara into the next mini boss. And this is just a little bit of a time efficiency thing. It's like you don't have to do this if you're not like tight on the timer. We're doing it because Nekthara doesn't really do much big group damage, doesn't do a lot of tank damage, and he's about to die before he does anything else. Anyways, we got Harugia. I don't know how to say this name. And she is pretty cool. She has a lot of avoidable damage, so this ricocheting blade, you can line of sight to prevent from going off, which is super, super helpful. It applies a nasty bleed, and it applies a bleed to anyone within that circle. So when you're playing a full melee comp, it's a little bit difficult, but as long as we pre-position for it, it's pretty easy to avoid a lot of this damage. There's a little bit more movement here, so you do lose a little bit of uptime on this mini-boss. The other one has a whirlwind cast, I guess like a giant circle that he puts around him that you have to run out for, so I think this is best case scenario. When I'm looking back at this run, I think if we got the other mini-boss, I think we would have maybe been a little bit slower. But line of sighting is pretty easy. Unfortunately, Easy missed there. He didn't get behind the pillar in time. That's okay. He's just greeting. As long as your healer can keep you up through it, I don't think it's like the worst thing. It's just when you get them back to back to back, plus going into the next pull, your healer definitely is going to want CDs for the next pull. And this mini boss goes down, and we are heading into the next pack. So we do this pack in kind of a cool way. I recommend doing this if you're in a coordinated group. But what we are doing is we're focusing the Arbalest, and we're ignoring the captain. The captain is just going to get cleaved down. While the captain is always seems to be the right target, because it's reducing the AoE damage you do, the Arbalests pose a way bigger threat to your group than the captain ever will. All the captain is doing is he's doing a little bit of a tank buster, which is very manageable, and he's making the group take less AoE damage. But the Arbalests, if they live too long, and if you're not focusing them, they're going to live a long time. Your group will just die here. The Jagged Corals stack up, and you just pretty much literally bleed out. And so when you're focusing one of the Arbalests, you're still cleaving onto the captain and other mobs, and while they are taking reduced AoE damage, your single target is going to just blast the mob. We do a quick pull timer. Our group then goes up. Heroic Leap, grapple, and then I port using Linked Spirits to CL. And that's how we skipped that mini boss. I'm going to have a short posted as well that goes over this, so keep an eye out for that. Zav the Unfallen is a very boring boss for Brewmaster monks. His tank buster is fully physical and it's dodgeable, which means that we're going to stagger it and we're going to be able to dodge some of the hits, which is very good. So there's sometimes where you're going to take like no damage. You do want to be on your toes though, because sometimes you low roll and you just get hit by all 3 hits. And that can be like slightly problematic. But yeah, this guy is super boring. I don't really know what to talk about here besides pull him to banners. There is tech that some groups do that they generally will ignore the banners to get more boss damage. As long as your entire group can live while being slowed at 50% or whatever it ends up being. The problem with our group is that while we have Heroic Leap, If we get a bad combination, we wipe. So we have decided just kill banners. It's not a big deal. It ends up working out. In a world where we swap up our comp to something else, there might be a world where we can ignore it, but playing our shaman and playing double warrior is just not the play. As a monk, I have tons of ways. I can dodge every single frontal just by rolling and then dashing. Our rogue always has grapple. Our shaman can gust of wind and our warriors can heroic leap, but then if the next frontal just faces them, they have no way to get out of that frontal. So that's kind of why we end up just cleaving them down. At this level, though, like, I don't know, they don't feel that difficult to cleave down. Like, you lose a little bit of boss damage, but given the fact that we time this key, I don't think it's really all that difficult. When it comes to the PvP arena, we have a priority list. Pretty much rogue always dies, and the warriors will communicate who has CDs. So either Carrot will defeat Easy or Easy will defeat Carrot. When we're playing a totally different comp, we also have some type of priority where it's like if it was a Feral Druid instead, it's like, okay, Warrior always wins, Feral beats Rogue, Rogue always loses. Brewmaster is also really nice in this fight because you have access to things like Touch of Death. Touch of Death can be utilized to dispatch one of these banners extremely quickly. I like to save it for banners that we're scared for. I didn't even use it there. It just got obliterated by Demolish, which is fucking insane. Warriors are very good at this fight because of sweeping strikes. Rogues are generally pretty good at this fight as well, as long as rolls aren't terrible. And Brewmasters, while our damage is pretty low, having access to Touch of Death every like 4th or 5th banner is really, really nice. So if I needed to, I could touch this banner specifically. I don't remember what banner I touch in this fight. Oh, right there. Perfect. We figured it out. We have solved a mystery. Deafening Crash. We roll out, we dodge, we sweep back in. Okay, do you know how hard it is to talk about a fight like that? I have no tips for this fight because the fight's just, I love this fight. Don't get me wrong, I love this fight. I like how simple it is, but man, it's very boring as a tank specifically. So the next wing that we head to is the chamber of, the Barrow of Carnage. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be getting a nice big pull. And we're going to be committing Lust here as well. The big things we need to keep out for is that really early on, all of the leaps can go on the same player, which can actually just totally flatten someone, which is like problematic. Then you're keeping an eye out for the Sludge Spewers. They do both Decaying Filth, which can do some good prio damage to the one of your party members, or they do their Withering Discharge, which needs to be interrupted, or it makes your entire group do 20% less damage and healing. And if that goes off, and goes off in multiple times, your group will wipe because the pull will just live way too long. So if any of these go off, we're kind of screwed. We pull in the patrol because we need to, because 1, we have less rolling. 2, we have 5 melee kicks. We only need 4 melee kicks to cover all of the Sludge Spewers, so we're more than happy pulling some extra ones in. And then as the Sludge Spewers die, we have more and more kicks allocated to interrupting those. We did a really good job actually CCing here, and I remember in this key, we weren't super, like, we called out our kicks, but that was it. Like, we didn't coordinate any, like, group CC. So we're going to end up heading to the left here. I call out, and I'm like, hey, if we're quick on the left, we can distract and get by. And that's what CL does there. He distracts the little gas bag there. Little gas bag. And we head into this next area. Now, we're going to do this pack. And while this gas bag is kind of chilling here, I'm going to tag him in as well. We're going to make use of our warriors' cooldowns. We have avatars and warbreakers coming up, which will allow them to get some pretty big damage out here and cleave down these smaller mobs. Now, I see a lot of people freak out about Meat Shield. Meat Shield is not a big deal. If it goes off, yes, it's less effective damage, but if you're going to miss kicks on Withering Discharge or even Decaying Filth, that is way more problematic than stopping Meat Shield. Plus, there's a lot of, I guess, like, there's another trash pull that we're going to be doing. And so if the horror is still a little bit healthier, it's like, okay, it's like you're going to just be able to cleave onto more mobs here. So I dropped Ring of Peace there thinking that my shaman was a little bit further back to prevent all of these guys from leaping on him. And then he gust of winded into the pack. It's not a big deal there. And then the gas bag eventually goes down, and now we have just the sludge beer left. So we're gonna kill this guy by himself because our next pull has us going into boss with a trash pull. So the big thing that you're looking up for here is there's a couple things. Both of these mobs have a tank buster, and the boss has a tank buster. So the start of this fight is really, really spooky. So I'm gonna commit an early Celestial Brew. The Decaying Strike is one of the tank busters. You can supposedly spell reflect it as a prot warrior. I feel like I've done it in a handful of keys, but maybe I'm just like crazy. The Butcher also has a tank buster through Devour Flesh, and then you also have the Hateful Strike from the boss. So I ended up having a Fortifying Brew proc there, so I held, and now I'm using Dampen Harm for this next one. And now I have my Ringing Ritual Mud cycling back up, and I also had a Celestial Brew once again, and now I have a Black Ox Brew. So I'm going to Black Ox Brew to reset. I now have a 6-stack of Celestial Brew, so we're feeling pretty good for it. And then, yeah, we're just basically using a lot of our heavier mitigation early in the fight until the mobs die. Once these trash mobs die that we pulled in go down, this fight's going to be so much easier for us. When it comes to the tenderizing smash positioning, you want to be somewhat cognizant of where your group is going to be pulled to. Because if you're going to be moving this guy like crazy and your melee are slightly out of range, they're going to get gripped in. And if they get gripped in into like poop on the ground from the leftovers or really anything else, they might get stuck, they might get caught in chains, and they're gonna die. So yeah, basically just make sure you're positioning the boss kind of next to these green pools on the ground, but never in them. And the closer you tank the boss to the center of the room, the more time your group's going to have to dodge. Now, meat hooks generally rotate from side to side. And so you can actually use that to your advantage. So you can pull him to a side that the meat hooks are going to spawn away from on the next set to give your group the most amount of time to dodge. And then you can just keep rotating back from side to side. Tanking in the center of the room is generally your best bet, though, from my experience. Now, one thing you have probably noticed at this point is that I'm casting paralysis on a far ad. Now, these ads can do a lot of damage when they jump and leap. They leap at random players. While it can be avoided by just strafing, it's extra damage that you don't need to take, and the mobs die naturally over time. So they die roughly 2 sets apart. And so while getting some, boss cleave or boss funnel is nice, leaving them out tends to just be a way safer play. And you can see it's kind of ticking down, 61, 59. So it's at 2% every second. So by the time 2 sets come out, they're sub 10%, so they leap in and they die almost immediately. I found this to be one of the safer options. Now, it's very difficult to do this as pretty much any other tank. I don't think you can imprison them since they're undead. You can use things like blind every once in a while. You can use things like mass root to keep them in place, and then you can reroute them as a druid. Definitely not easy to do, but you can do it as other classes. You can frozen trap, possibly. If you can't keep them out, great. If you can't, I don't think it's the end of the world. You just have to, your healer has to spot heal a little bit more frequently. Anyways, we're now heading to the next area. Unfortunately, Kara did die at the very end of that fight, but that is A-okay. This next pull is going to be pretty big. This has become pretty standard for most groups, at least in hierarchies. This is a very efficient pull. It's also very easy to do. What we're doing is we're grabbing literally every soul. Easy died to Standing in a Swirl. You definitely don't want to do that. You don't want to get hit by them. Don't greed it. Don't think that you can live. At this level of key, it's going to kill pretty much everyone. So he was running back. So what we did is we delayed pulling in the Portal Guardian. And this is mostly because I thought the Portal Guardian could possibly do his Soul Storm and kill Easy while he was running back, which I didn't want to happen. Here comes that group damage. And now, during this, we are popping defensives. We have healing CDs rolling like tide. We see multiple Bind Souls actually hitting our Shaman, so I Ring of Peace, just to keep that damage low. And then kick Bind Souls when we can, but we're really focusing down the Portal Guardian. We don't want him to get a second cast off, and if he does, we want him to die before he at least gets halfway through it, to minimize the amount of group damage we're going to be taking. So 15 mil, I'm going to save Touch of Death for it, and boom, he's dead. And now we're going to be heading to the left platform here. So the left platform is a lot easier. Ever since they removed the Grave Spike cast from the Bone Maguses, they're not worth doing. I think my original route that I had through here had people pulling them. If you're still pulling them for some reason, I recommend not. They're just difficult to manage unless you're like a prop paladin specifically, or you have like 8 shamans in your group. Once this pack goes down, we're going to be heading down to the next platform. Now I'm going to do something a little cheeky here. I'm going to be rolling off the edge and then dashing forward, and this lands you right on the edge there. This allows me to get here a little bit earlier just to kind of prepare the pull by setting up like focuses. Once we get the pull started, I'm going to get them a little bit to the left here, or I guess the right side of the platform if you're coming the normal way. Because we're going to be pulling in that soul binder with the souls after the Magus dies. The Magus is always going to be the priority here. Bone Spear will pretty much one-shot someone at any point on this difficulty. And the soul binder, while Necrotic Bolt is important to kick, we definitely want to make sure we're prioritize kicking the volley. These Necrotic Bolts are the same thing we saw in Necrotic Wake last season. They just put a small healing absorb on a player. Unlike Necrotic Wake, though, these Necrotic Bolts target anyone, not just the tank. I ring a piece of soul, the soul binder a little bit closer to us to make sure I get the kick while with that last Portal Guardian's damage is going out. And now we're just doing this 4-pack pretty much by itself. So at this point in the run, we have about 13 minutes left, give or take. This is a really good point for us. We want to basically get onto the 4th boss of the dungeon with, give or take, 9 minutes. So we have about 4 minutes to get basically 2 to 3 more trash pulls down. And because we want to budget roughly 4.5 on the last boss. So Dark Speaker gets kicked on Spirit Frost. We're going to pull him into the right, and I'm going to pull this pack as well. So one change that they made very recently, actually just last week, is they've added these like purple frontals to these tornadoes, which makes them so much easier to see and dodge, which has made this pull actually so safe that not doubling this up is kind of grieving. This is just super free percent. It actually justifies how you can potentially skip, both the mini boss and Zabswing as well as the first pull of the dungeon, just to get these guys in. This is super efficient, 6 target cleave, not really a lot of kicks required, like a little bit of movement. It's very free. Defensives, I'm just kind of rolling here to roll. Once you get through Gorechop's wing, like this wing for a tank is just, in my opinion, it's very free. We're going to now pull in the second Spirit Binder. I'm going to be getting the first kick to help get it moved. We're going to ring a piece a little bit closer because Dark Speakers are very difficult to move. You have to kick Spirit Frosts and their Death Winds can't be queued up. If both of those conditions are true, they're just going to stay still forever. You need to like kick Spirit Frost well before a frontal. And at this point, we have just one more trash pull to do. This is going to put us at like 95%. The last pull is going to put us at 100, and we're going to be good to go. This, by the way, is an exactly 100% route. So 94.83, the next pull is 5.17. The priority here, similar to before, we're seeing basically a replica of all the mobs we've seen already. We have to kick a Bone Spear on the Magus. We want to kick the Soulbinder's Volley. And Spirit Frost is a pseudo tank buster magic. Like, we don't have to kick it if we don't need to. If we have kicks budgeted for it, you can. Warriors can also taunt Spell Reflect. It's a very big hit. So if you have a warrior you're comfortable playing with, or is comfortable taunting and reflecting, you can do that as well. I'm surprised Easy doesn't do it in this poll. He's the one who generally does all this stuff. I think this Dark Speaker would already be dead at this point, but saving it for a defensive for something is also fine. So here we are in Kul'tharok. This boss is tedious, I would say, because there's a lot going on. And this boss, while it's, I want to say it's like quote-unquote free, I've also seen groups that I've been in just get bricked. It gets bricked almost immediately, which is really frustrating. The reason it gets bricked is because people don't respect the necrotic bolts that are being casted. And this only happens in higher keys. In lower keys, you can just let every necrotic bolt go off and your healer has to do a little bit of spot healing. But here, what I'm doing is I'm calling out a kick rotation. Basically, you know, chicken next, carrot next, CL next, IF next. And as we go through that list, we're just rotating through. Warriors will then vocalize if they can spell reflect it, if it's on them. And if that's the case, that person doesn't kick. We have about 3.5 seconds to kind of like process that and call it out. And if we do that, we're going to get a little bit of free boss damage. Warriors can also spell reflect the Well of Darkness, though, if it's going on them, and it totally immunes it, which is another a good way to utilize spell reflect on this fight. So warriors are very good here. Unfortunately, Easy is just being a Grief Lord right now and walking over our other warrior, making them take a lot of damage. The idea for Draw Soul is I put down 2 world markers, and we basically position between those world markers. So if melee can be on blue, range can be on green. But what it does is it stacks them up really, really nice, because Draw Soul ad spawns spawn at the closest edge of the platform. Now this platform is, despite the circles or the balls going in a circle, it is a square-shaped platform. So being between blue and triangle will mean that it'll always go right to that like little bone claw that's coming up. Now, as you can see, people who are targeted with Well of Darkness actually do take a lot of damage, and that's where the Necrotic Bolts kind of go sideways. You want to use a defensive if Well is on you, but if you don't have a defensive and Well is on you, and you get targeted by a bolt and it doesn't get kicked, if all those conditions become true, you're just going to die. And that's pretty much the fight. There's not a whole lot going on the tank. Like, you're going to see me just getting hit by these balls. This isn't true for all tanks. I know my Protection Warrior takes a lot more damage than my Brew on this fight from the balls, but I just, like, let them hit me. It's just, they're never, like, dangerous. They're never lethal for a tank, at least at this key level, I should say, with the amount of gear that we have. So we're heading up to the final boss with 6 minutes remaining, give or take. We're going to have a little less than 6 after a role play, but there's nothing really that we can do to speed this up. The only way you can speed this up is by having one of your players at the end of Kul'tharok leap off the boss platform and actually head upstairs, as basically get ready to go upstairs at the end of the fight. In the past, you used to have a healer do this, but I think with like Well of Darkness and Draw Souls, like you don't really want this. I don't know if Draw Soul will also despawn the boss if it spawns outside the platform, so maybe some testing that we're going to have to do, but there's not really a way to speed this up. So we're pulling with about 5.5 minutes. This is plenty of time. We also lusted pull. You can make the argument to lust pull, lust the intermission, lust whenever CDs come up. We had all our warrior CDs. Rogues don't really have CDs, so we decided to lust pull. So our warriors are just blasting. Yeah, because the faster you can get through phase 1 is really good to get into phase 2. There's also an argument to be made, like the start or the intermission / phase 2 is harder because there's extra mechanics going on. So maybe lusting there will lower your wipe conditions. It's really up to your group. Now we do want to be a little bit careful because Dark Devastation has been bugged. Most of you who are running keys probably know this, where sometimes the animation stays static, but it's still rotating in game. So if you have to like basically guess which way it's going. The safest way to combat that is just always be on the tail of the boss. Don't try to cheese it off by being on the side, because if it starts rotating the way that you're standing and you're not, you can't tell that it's actually rotating that way, you're just gonna die. It's a very annoying bug that I hope they fix soon, but only time will tell. I couldn't tell if that was one of them, but that's okay. As a Brewmaster, you want to try to use a defensive. The Reaping Scythe shouldn't kill you straight up. What the times that it will kill you straight up is when it's overlapping with other mechanics. So the big scary one is when it's overlapping with the ad spawn. So when you have that circle around you, the grip, which you just saw from the rift, and obviously then the tank buster. So like this one, super tame. I took it without any I guess I had fortifying brew, but basically no defenses available. Cows are spawning, so I'm trying to move her away, but unfortunately she goes right into a Dark Devastation, so we're just trying to pay attention. There it is. There's that animation. It stays still and then it snaps right before it finishes. That's a scary one. Right here, this grip is actually pretty tame. This is when we want to use a defensive. So you see I commit Dampen Harm here. And now that the ads are grouped up, I'm going to just go right into an Exploding Keg just to get threat. Warriors complain more often than not because Getting thrown on some of these heads is difficult as a Brewmaster. And I'm holding Weapons of Order. I don't know why. There's no reason for me to. I could just send it here. I could also use it on next ad set to get quick snap threat. But it's available. I should be using it. Maybe I just played like ass this key. Holy cow. So cows are coming out. Now these ones are going in an X pattern as well. I find that the X formation is way easier to dodge. Sometimes what they do though is they go like across the room, almost like if the room is a rectangle, and they just go across like a sweeping wall. And that one is always really hard to dodge too if you're not paying attention to it. Right here, basically contenders go off, then we spread. And now I'm positioning the boss in the middle of the room because I'm trying to like fix her bugged frontals, but I find it easier to bait her in the middle when cows come out, and then you move to the edge. It's also a little bit easier to spread. Unfortunately, CO goes down at the very end there. I think what ended up happening was, I think it was a killing spree. I think killing spree went off and it got him killed from the cows, or the Dark Devastation. But anyways, that was it. 3 deaths on the board, not super great, but we did time that 16. So it was a very smooth, clean run. Now I did this on stream, so if you like to watch me do keys live and rage about how bad Brewmaster is, come check it out. Anyways, if you have any question about the run, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Anyways, good luck in your runs. I hope you learned something, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.